Hey guys, this is Substitute Topher. Today we're driving a 2023 Nissan Maxima SR, Nissan's recently discontinued sports sedan. This is powered by a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6. It makes 300 horsepower and 261 pound-feet of torque, and power is sent to the front wheels only via a CVT. Today we're going to walk you around this Nissan Maxima, and then we'll take it out on the road and show you what it's like to drive. So I never really understood the difference between the Maxima and the Altima until recently. So essentially what this is the sports sedan. The size difference is really nothing. If you look at the dimensions, it's about the same length, about the same width, about the same height. It seats the same amount of passengers as an Altima, but Nissan wanted to have a sports sedan or a muscular sedan. And well, the Maxima's been around since the 80s, and it was just discontinued for the 2024 model year, 2023 being the last chance you had to have yourself a Maxima. And honestly, I kind of like this idea of having a separate model as a standalone sports sedan. So anyways, what do you get on the SR above the base SV? Well, the SR is kind of the sport trim of the sport tuned sedan. Someone start a tally of how many times I've said sport in this video. But you get a sport tuned suspension and a larger front sway bar in this Maxima SR. Also a number of different interior materials, which we'll show you once we step in. But powertrain is the same across the line, that naturally aspirated V6 front wheel drive with a CVT. And in my opinion, I think the CVT is kind of what makes this car less special, because if they were gonna do something that was sporty, then they probably should have differentiated from the Altima just a little bit more in that respect. Anyways though, we'll walk you around this thing, we'll show you practicality, we'll open up the trunk. Pretty good opening. I mean, this is a pretty fairly sized sedan. We're driving this car today thanks to my buddy Matthew over at Nissan of Canton in Canton, Michigan. So if you all want this exact Maxima, it's for sale right now, along with a number of other Nissans, used cars, whatever. If you end up going up there, tell them that I sent you. They'll be happy to hear so. So under here we have a spare tire, which is something we don't get on a lot of modern cars. It's not a full-size spare, but it's nice to know that we do have one in here under the trunk floor. This car also has a number of port installed accessories. We have a Maxima trunk mat, we have a cargo net, and we have this $90 little storage solution here with a first aid kit. So if you want to have that in your trunk, 90 bucks, there you go. Little handle to pull our trunk shut. I think design-wise, this is a pretty attractive looking car. We have this kind of flowing line here that starts at the front fender, goes through the doors, dissipates, but then this line starts to kind of show off the rear haunches. So pretty nice. Nissan Maxima SR starts at 43 grand. This one as spec $45,000. And since this is not a press car, this is just a new car from a dealership, we have our window sticker right here on the window. It is raining today, so let me squeegee this off with my hand. $45,130. We just have those couple little options, splash guards and sport matte group. 24 MPG combined, 20 city, 30 highway. Not too bad. It looks like we have all 5-star crash test ratings. Pretty nice. All right, let's show you under the hood, and then we'll show you the interior. So there we are, our naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6. Pretty simple looking engine bay, and I mean, how many sedans still come with a V6? I mean, this one doesn't exist anymore, but there aren't many in 2024 that you can have, especially with a naturally aspirated V6, so kind of a cool thing. But simple engine bay. Cool. I like the dark touches, the black grille, the black wheels, the black trim, the black roof. Here's our back seat. We have black leather with Alcantara and orange stitching. We have a diamond stitch here in the middle. Pretty nice looking stuff. Rear seat room is nice. I have a pretty decent amount of headroom back here despite our dual sunroofs, or moonroofs rather. Kind of neat. Pull down our center armrest. We've got 2 cup holders. We have a USB-C and a USB-A port. I was surprised when I got in this car up front to see that it had a USB-C port. I figured that this ancient car would not have that. This car, in my mind, I thought had been the same since like 2016. So it's cool that they sprinkled a couple of updates in here over the years. Otherwise, not much going on back here. We have seat back pockets. We have some door pocket storage. And overall, I mean, it's a pretty cozy back seat. Nice soft materials. Take a look up at the dashboard. This is the easiest place to see kind of the driver-focused design there of the dashboard angled towards the driver. You can see more of that diamond design here on the front seats, and our driver's seat has kind of a BMW style leg extender. So that is something that I always like to see on a sports seat. Very nice Alcantara and leather steering wheel with orange stitching. It's flat bottom, and we have column mounted paddle shifters on this SR. You have to step up to the SR to get these. They do not come standard on the SV. And overall, this is a nice looking interior. It's a little bit dated, I would say mostly by this infotainment and climate display. Not complaining whatsoever that we have physical controls, it just looks a little bit old. We have a CD player here at the top. We have this little compartment that stores your phone with a couple of USB-C ports, A and C, to start your Apple CarPlay. You can see we have that in here. And we'll do a sound system test later on this Bose sound system. I've already listened to it, and I think it sounds pretty dang good. Infotainment seems to react pretty quickly. I mean, this is just standard Nissan infotainment, guys. Nothing really special here. But Nissan's infotainment, it does look old. It's a little dated, but it does work fine. It gets the job done. We have a physical climate control panel. These buttons feel a little bit cheap on here, but again, you know, it's physical buttons, and it is what it is. We have this kind of metallic-y gray trim that goes around the infotainment all on our center console here. We have a knob to control our infotainment if you don't want to use the touchscreen. And the most obscure thing in this interior is the heated and cooled seat controls. They're little knobs. You turn the knob, it goes 3 clicks to the left for your 3 cooled seat settings, ventilated seats rather, and 3 clicks to the right for your heated seats, and then you put the knob there in the middle to have it off. We have that for both the driver and passenger seat up here in this Maxima. We have nice orange stitching across the dashboard, and as far as materials go, I mean, this is a pretty nice interior in my opinion. We've got a nice soft, squishy trim on our console here to rest your knee on if you're on a long trip. Pretty soft surfaces for our elbows. You can see the squish on this center console. Open that up. Pretty decent storage in there. Not too bad. Enough to store my hat for today. All right, what do you say we take this Nissan Maxima out on the road and see what it's like to drive? Very traditional shifter. I love it. Get our wipers going for the drive today. We have a push on and off parking brake. So we'll get that disengaged there. Reverse and 360 cameras in normal Nissan form. These aren't very good quality, but this is not unique to the Maxima. I was driving a GTR a couple weeks ago, and the camera looked just like that on it. So right off the bat, I want to talk about the first thing that I noticed getting into this Nissan Maxima, and that is the steering. This has something called hydroelectric power steering, and basically what that means is it's a hydraulic rack. It has hydraulic power steering, but it has electronic assist. So the steering is pretty heavy when you're at low speeds, kind of maneuvering around parking lots, but once you get up over 15, 20 miles an hour, it's very light, and it's a little bit unsettling because it's a very inconsistent steering feel, and we'll talk a bit more about that once we're going around some corners a little bit later into the drive, but it's definitely a unique power steering system. torque from that V6. It makes a good noise. This XTronic CVT is programmed to have 7 speeds, so if you use your paddle shifters, go into manual mode, you can shift through 7 gears manually. And this is a raw first impressions drive. I've put about 15 miles on this car, so you guys are kind of going on the maiden voyage with me today. It's a mattress. You can see that CVT simulating shifts. We have a sport button here. We can click OK. That will take us to our sport display here on the cluster. We can bump ourselves into manual mode, use these column mounted paddle shifters. Ooh, traction control kicking in there. We're on a set of 19-inch Goodyear all-season tires. I want to say it's a 235 section all the way around, so we're not going to have the most grip here in the wet. Need to turn this traction control off. It doesn't make a bad noise, honestly. You can see our power gauge there in the middle, show how much throttle input I'm giving. All right, coming up on our big sweeper here. Get ourselves up in the rev range. Of course, not going to have a ton of grip in the wet on these Goodyears, but it corners pretty nice. I mean, this is a nice chassis on this car. Sport tune suspension here in the SR. I mean, it feels dialed in. I mean, you can tell that they're aiming for sport over comfort with the suspension setup, with the chassis on this car. But the steering is weird. I don't have a ton of communication from this hydroelectric power steering rack. Also, we're using the paddle shifters, mostly because I just like the noise that they make. Whew. All right, let's put this back into automatic and we'll see how this Nissan Maxima gets off the line. We're gonna be gentle with it off the line here. Traction is off and it's soaking wet, so we'll kind of roll into it here. But I mean, it's pretty quick. 0 to 60, I want to say it's under 6 seconds. I do really like the noise that this V6 makes. It's just a shame that it's mated to a CVT, and I know that's the Nissan way, but this car could be so much better if it had like a proper 8-speed automatic or something, especially in a sports sedan. I mean, the Subaru WRX is kind of a perfect comparison here, a perfect example rather. I don't like it in that, I don't like it in this, and it kind of kills this whole experience for me, to be honest, because this is a nice car. The steering wheel feels great. I love this Alcantara on the wheel. It's a nice thickness, it's a nice flat bottom. I like the column mounted paddles. I like the seat. There are a lot of nice things about this Nissan Maxima, but it just kind of is ruined for me by this CVT, and it's a shame, and I kind of suspect that that's why the latest rendition of the Maxima kind of just never caught on. Of course, the Maxima hasn't always been a CVT. Earlier generations of this car were even available with a manual transmission. So it's a shame that they kind of just neutered this latest one. And we have no grip there. Never been a big fan of Goodyear tires. This is kind of validating that for me today. Yeah, we are understeering at 47 miles per hour. Nice. Let's get out of sport mode. Let's turn traction back on. And we'll show you guys our cruise control on this. We do have adaptive cruise, so we'll lock onto the back of this minivan here. We can adjust our distance with this button on the top right. And the Maxima goes nicely and pretty quietly down the road. NVH is nice, you guys can all observe that now. It's a decently quiet sedan. The one good thing about this CVT is that you do have all 300 horsepower, you know, anytime you want it. You put your foot down and you're pretty much immediately in the power band. And then of course, when you're cruising, you're able to obtain that 30 mpg because this car is able to rev itself pretty dang low. I mean, 65 miles an hour here, we are revved below 2,000 RPM. So, you know, there are pros and cons to the CVT, but if you're gonna market something as a sports sedan, that's weird. If you're gonna market something as a sports sedan, in my opinion, it should not have a CVT. As we wrap up here on our quick little first driving impressions of the Nissan Maxima, let's head over to Apple CarPlay and we'll do a little sound system test for you guys on this Bose sound system. Very strong performance from this Bose in this Maxima. Nissan has been improving their Bose sound systems over the years, and it's a nice sound. We've got nice punches from the bass. We have super crispy highs here in this sound system, and man, that's got to be one of the highest points, one of the best points on this Nissan Maxima. Otherwise, I mean, just kind of from a daily driving perspective, it's a comfortable car. I don't really have any complaints with this thing as far as that goes. Driving position's a little bit high. I do wish I could move the seat down a little lower, but otherwise you are at least able to see kind of this muscular hood design. I do like when hoods aren't just completely flat. Impact harshness is not too bad, even on these 19-inch wheels. The ride is a little stiff, like I mentioned earlier in the video, but it's not offensive. I mean, it's about what you'd expect for something marketed as a sports sedan. This steering, though, it's tough. It's tough to kind of place the front of the car because the car is pretty agile, I'll give it that, but you never really know what's going on with this front end. It's very strange. It's got nice vent placement, I'll give it that. Position these to blow right at your face. They're at the perfect kind of eye level here. Design-wise, I think it's a very attractive car inside and out, and from a daily driving perspective, it's pretty nice as well. Would I get in this and call it a sports sedan? I don't really know about that. It's some very strong verbiage, I would say, for this car, and I think that in the end is probably why this car did not succeed, because you could just go and have yourself an Altima for $10,000 less than a base model Maxima. I mean, base model to base model, it's about a $10,000 difference. So if you just want a sedan and you don't necessarily care about having a 300 horsepower V6, then you could just go have yourself an Altima, and you still can. So I think that that kind of tells the story with this Maxima, and it's sad because back in the day, Maximas were cool. I mean, shoot, there was a Maxima in the first Fast and Furious. I think there are things that they probably could have done better. They could have focused this more at an enthusiast with the Altima already existing. I think they could have gone a little bit further with this Maxima, and maybe it would have survived. And who knows, maybe this will come back as an EV, like everything else. But that'll just about wrap it up for us today on this quick little first impressions drive on the Nissan Maxima. I've never driven a Maxima before, so again, thanks to my buddy Matthew over at Nissan of Canton for giving me this opportunity. Of course, there are no Maximas in the press fleet, and there hasn't been for a while because they've kind of known that they were going to be discontinuing this car. So none of us have really had a chance to go out in a Maxima in the last like 10 years. So this has been a fun opportunity today, and also kind of puts things in perspective for me with the Maxima. So let's give you guys one last look on the outside of the Maxima, and that will wrap it up for us today. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this thing. Being that this was a first impressions drive, I haven't been able to spend the week with this car like I normally do. So if I missed anything, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer your questions in the comments. Kind of a sad end to something that could have been really cool. Kind of could have continued the legacy of the Maxima. Oh well. The market has changed. We can't completely fault Nissan. I mean, obviously people are generally just buying SUVs these days, so a Nissan sports sedan in today's market really just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyways though, that'll wrap it up for us today. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.